The first function is account growth. So this is what we are saying is the lowest cost dollar. And really, this is about expanding your existing engagements with your existing clients through, you might have more projects, you might expand, add on your scope, or you might have a retainer to add on to your initial engagement. And really, this is, the lowest cost but in highest margin dollar in business development. And really, we consider like the lowest hanging fruit here. I think founders and teams often underinvest in this the most. But there's, really a playbook for how to make this a more impactful part of your new biz efforts.
Yeah, I mean, so one inspiration that we pull from is obviously, David Meister, who wrote Managing the Professional Service Firm, right? It's a book that we reference a lot, just over the years. And he has a whole section on like, why it's so important to market to existing clients. And it's really about account growth. And, there's really the four reasons why this is so important. The number one is, hey, existing clients are definitely higher probability prospects, right? They already know and trust you. And then number two, the marketing cost to win them is lower, right? Because they're not like a cold, contact, and you already, you don't have to have this long running courtship to win that relationship. The third part is like a lot of times the follow on work with these clients is more profitable than the first one because you already know how to work with them. You kind of have a good process going. And then lastly, as you work more with the same client, and you kind of develop like process and everything, like you can get more efficient with the delivery. And it might be you could even kind of put in some other personnel, lower cost personnel, or these days you could put automations and AI in place, which is going to raise your leverage and then also increase your margins.
Yeah. Mixer also kind of talks about like you got to be disciplined about this because it's not trying to win anything from anyone. So like any of your clients, it's really targeting accounts where a couple things are true. So the first thing is there's real like additional need that you can serve and you can actually, provide more value. And then also the relationship has to be strong enough so that any effort that you're putting into growing that account actually pays off and you can actually convert from it.
Yeah, and so I think the cool thing about this in the book, and everyone should grab a copy if you haven't checked it out. But he actually lists a lot of like stuff, like tactical stuff, and one of the things that he suggests is like, hey, maybe you spend a little bit of your new business budget inside your current engagement. Just go the extra mile, maybe offer an extra analysis, or maybe make the turnaround a little bit faster. So this is where, and this is interesting. It's a little bit tricky because you have to be very disciplined in this as well. You are in effect sacrificing a little bit of gross margin, but then you're saying that delivery cost is actually a marketing investment for your client. So going above and beyond, for that client, as a way to, just kind of build that relationship and grow that account. So, just think about that as an interesting mental model for how marketing, dollars or kind of account growth dollars could be spent.
Yeah. And this is an area where, agencies typically underinvest. And some of the reasons it's, there's no like, it's like unglamorous, right? It's like the thing where like you're servicing your existing clients. There's no like cool new logo. Like there's no big announcement that can say like, hey, we won, a new account. And usually there's no owner around it. So it's just something that kind of sits with nobody. But it's yeah, so it's like it's either somewhere between like delivery and sales, right? And without that owner, you end up with something that gets underinvested, and so it's almost like a comp thing, right? If you have account managers who are comped, purely on keeping clients happy, then that's going to be their job. They're going to keep the clients happy, but not think about growth. But if you can, imagine some variable comp where account growth is what these account managers are incentivized on, maybe their behavior will change, and then you can actually see some expansion, and that will move the needle for the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. And so like to bring this back to kind of like, all right, your agency founder trying to figure out how to spend on business development. And we say, hey, account growth is an excellent place to start, right? Just it's low hanging fruit. You're going to get a lot of bang for your buck. So I think the activities where the dollars can actually go is, some of the stuff that Maester said, maybe going the extra mile on engagements, but it's other stuff too, like maybe it's just, on the account management front, having really good QBRs, right? Where you're kind of, showcasing the stuff that you did for the client, the results that you were able to deliver, and then talking about the future, kind of mapping, what future engagements could be, also different expansion paths that you could kind of think about within that client. Maybe some of this training stuff that you could give as well. But yeah, it's very low lift. Like, you don't need to bring on a bunch of new resources to do this stuff. And so, yeah, if you do this right, think about all the ways that you could go get deeper with your existing clients. This is, of course, an excellent place to start.
Let's move on to the next function, which is partnerships and referrals. Again, something that is lower cost but slow to build. For this, we're talking about building relationships with other companies in your ecosystem who could refer you business. This could be other agencies with supplemental services. This could be tech partners or industry organizations, like other people that exist that you probably have a relationship with now, but being intentional about it and having that be a meaningful part of your biz dev efforts.
Yeah, and I think these have generally like a lower direct cost, right? Like, it's, yeah, in many respects, it's like it's somebody's time plus maybe a little co-marketing budget, at the most basic level, right? And it's more about, yeah, like building that high trust, right? Investing in that high trust, because at the end, like, that warm intro you get from somebody, can go much further and convert a lot at a higher rate than something that is a cold lead. And so, yeah, I think, while it's relatively lower cost, it does take a lot of discipline and a system. And we talked about a lot about this in a couple of episodes. I think episode 12 we did a whole thing on like lightweight partnerships programs, and then episode 18 we talked about like treating referrals as a system. And so, yeah, with that, like, the hard work here is not so much like the dollar investment, but it's about like building that system, so that, you're not just operating off of, hey, like, we have a great partnership vibe, but it's like more about, can you identify the right partners? Can you have a real give and take going, and can you follow up consistently?
Yeah, and we've seen this all the time where you see founders who, have great relationships, go to all these like dinners and like meet a ton of people, and they're visible, but there's no real, cadence of following up. There's no system that actually turns all those conversations and relationships into actual pipeline. And we've been guilty of this. We've gone to like all
Too
these
much.
events and we've kind of let things,
Yeah.
fizzle from there. But really, the fix here is like giving this function a real owner. And a couple of our Bear Holdings agencies have brought on dedicated people, partnership managers, who kind of know everyone in that ecosystem. And they're actually incentivized based on partnership driven revenue. So, now there's a person who's actually working on co-marketing, actually checking in and bringing, leads back to the team and knowledge from all these partners back to the team. So it's a very structured, intentional process.
Yeah. So just kind of like, if we break down what the actual spend might be on on this particular biz dev function, right? It might be, yeah, somebody who's going to own partnerships outside the founder, right? So this might be somebody even part-time, working part-time. And then on top of that, like a co-marketing budget to start.